Let's go ahead and figure out how to make a pattern for a simple little card wallet here. All you're going to need is just some paper, some measuring utensils, and a knife and a pencil pretty much. So let's go ahead and get started here. Now, the first pattern I ever made was real simple, just a bunch of squares, and I cut the angles for the pockets, but we're going to make something that's a bit better today, I think. Now, firstly, the paper I'm going to use is I believe a 40-pound paper, so if you're just using regular printer paper, you can always just tape the back of it with some masking or packing tape. That's what I do all the time when I print out patterns. Now, the big challenge here is getting cards to fit in the pockets with having enough room on the edges for stitching. So, pretty much the best way to do it is to actually have the pieces of leather sewn together. So, obviously, here's a whole wallet that I can just test with, but you can always take two pieces of just scrap material, sew those together, and then butt up the cards to where you want it, and then see how much of edge you need to add on to that, and then from there, you can pretty much take that and just trace that onto the pattern and give yourself an outline of what you need. And once we figure out how wide we want this, we just cut ourselves a whole strip of paper here so that we can get the back, the pocket, and the other pocket. Now, you can make this with just some 4 5-ounce in 2 pieces, so you can use the same leather, or you can make it out of thinner leather with more pieces, or just thinner altogether. So pretty versatile if you just want a simple little card slip like this. So now the best way for figuring out what spacing we need extra on our pattern here for stitching is, well, if you've made enough of these, is you have an extra wallet lying around that didn't work out for you, and you can use that. But really, just take a couple of scrap bits of leather and sew those together of the thickness material you're going to use, and then see how far the card can fit until it gets stuck by the stitching, and then figure out what kind of distance you need, maybe give it just a touch more, and then you can add that plus the width of your cards to each side, and that'll give you the distance that you need. And then we just go ahead and mark that out for the whole thing and cut out this long strip for the back and the pockets. So like what I'm going to do here is just take the card, butt it up to the edge, and this is the factory edge, so I know it's straight, and then add on what I need for the stitching plus 2, and that'll give me the distance that I need here, and I'll do that here and mark that at least 3 if not 4 times along the edge here, so that way we know that if there's any inconsistencies, it'll kind of even out just with human error. Now we'll take a straight edge here. Now I got some liquid electrical tape on the top here so I can get the surface closer to the paper rather than using the cork on the back here. But we'll go ahead and get ourselves a straight line that we can cut this pattern to. And you can see like some of these marks, they're not all perfect, but you just kind of go in between all of them, and that'll give you a pretty darn even, consistent measurement. And rather than cutting against the ruler, you want to just mark against the ruler and then cut with your knife, because otherwise you can end up making the ruler not straight anymore. But if you just keep your knife nice and low angle, it'll keep itself straight pretty much. Alright, so now for marking out how high the whole body needs to be, we just got to give ourselves enough for 1 stitch spacing down at the bottom, and then mark out however tall we want it. So I'm going to make it go about an 1/8 inch above the card. So now use our L square here and just get ourselves a square line across that. Preferably referencing the factory edge of the paper rather than what you cut, but hopefully your cut is pretty straight, so it'll work either way. And also, if you're wondering, that cut along the pencil line rather than ruler, we left a pretty straight line. So now we can go ahead and cut this little wallet back piece out. Now here's the fun creative part, is figuring out how we want to do our pocket edges. Like on my first wallet I ever did, it was just these simple little, I cut it at an angle. But this time we can do something a little more fancy. This is what I've been doing nowadays, kind of my take on a Western curve type of deal. So we can do something pretty similar here. What I'm going to do is just mark out roughly where the top of our back piece is for reference, and then just kind of eyeball out how high we want the pocket to be on the card here. So I'll leave like maybe a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch above. So we'll go there, and then I'll have the bottom down here about, and you know, we could do another set parallel down for if we're making multiple pockets. Then go ahead and sketch in roughly a shape here. That's looking pretty good. I'll spend a bit more time refining it just because. And then once you have the pocket shape you want, now you can go ahead and round the bottoms off. You can always do that after the fact once you get it in leather, but I prefer to do that in the pattern stage. Now I like using this little circle template. It works really nice.
You could also use a coin. There's plenty of other things you could find around the house. Then we'll just go ahead and mark out our back piece and all of our pockets, and then we're ready to go ahead and cut out the pattern, and we can transfer it over to leather. If you think someone else could find this useful, consider leaving a like down below, and maybe watch this next video.